Okay, so now we're going to look at doing the window in sections. Sometimes people might refer to this on a difficult car, like you have to do it in a couple pieces. It's not preferred, but sometimes that's what you need to do. The window could be too big, it could be too curvy. Your window film, you might not have a long enough roll. So for this, you'd use a 30-inch roll. For some reason, if all we had was a 20-inch, this is a way to get this done. The window's quite clean, but for process, just going to follow this. You know, especially if you're learning, it might not be the protocol in your shop, but for best practice, it's a good idea to always prepare the glass properly, clean it. So essentially what we're going to do is do it in two sections. So we'll lay the film up here. Just position this, I'm just going to lock it in. So always make sure before a cut you're either going to snap a tip, but really you want to put a button underneath, or you know, a piece of plastic from your awful box underneath, so we're protecting the glass. What we need to identify is a splice line. So on a sedan you want to probably splice a little bit higher, because once you're sitting in the car, if you're trying to lean and splice, it can be a bit difficult. So we'll come down. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So let's cut below the 5th line. Okay, fill that out. Okay. With all the scraps, I'm always going to keep them on the roof or the front of the car. Better than on the floor where someone can slip over. Alright, so now I'm going to stretch. Same side and stretch. Okay. So as you can see here, the spears now are very small. If you look in the one-piece wet shrink video, they're probably going to be, you know, probably 8 or 9 inches. Whereas now we're down to, you know, a couple inches or 5 centimeters. They're a lot easier to manage. This actual window, if I did it in 3 sections, the pieces are going to be that small, you probably wouldn't need a heat gun. So that's another thing. You might get caught out, heat gun's broken, you know, it's at night or on the weekend where you can't actually purchase one, or it's too far to go. You can knock it out in 3 pieces, and, you know, it's not ideal, but whatever gets the job done. Spears this size, I wouldn't really need a rag to manage them. Just wait for the heat gun to warm up. So what I'm going to do is just grab another blade quickly. Okay, back. So now just remember that number 5. You might even want to mark that line, because the top piece has to be bigger than that line and the bottom piece has to be bigger. Okay, so the number 5 line, we need to overlap with both pieces. We're going to make a cut and then splice it. I might just call an assistant. Greg, can you just open that door? You'll find if you open both doors, it's a bit easier to see out. He's just doing his makeup, but he'll be shortly. Thanks, man. Okay. So I'm going to cut this piece out. Top piece is done. It's sitting flat. This is how it's going to be. The look now is what's going to look like on the inside. So if you've got this and you're seeing big fingers of spears, let's address it on the outside so it's not a problem on the inside. So just checking 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we're bigger than the 5th. So when we come here, we have to overlap that as well. Good idea now. Let's just take this away so it's not in the road and getting damaged. Next piece. So again, if I always had to tint this car and I didn't actually have a piece big enough, this is a way that's going to get us out of trouble. Get the film on. If you look, I guess 20 years ago, there wasn't much molding. You know, the films probably weren't as capable as they are now, and this is very common. Some windows were 5-piece, so it's good to know all of them. May get you out of trouble one day. So just to check, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I want to be on the high side of 5. Good. I've got a little bit of excess, so remember we always have that in case we make an error. We can sort of move the film around. Okay, so now shrinking the wet shrink top to bottom, top of the spear. So just wait for this to warm up. Just going to heat it, let it squiggle, push through. Heat the top, let it squiggle, push through. Okay, so now we're happy with the way that's sitting. It's flat. We're going to trim it out. If you've got a dark VLT, obviously we showed you might want to put the light in there or a white sheet or something like that. Make it a bit easier. So now that's done, we're going to take it to the board and then we'll come back and install it. Alright, so we want to always work top to bottom. So you can see this piece is a little bit smaller, it's easier to manage. Move it around. Okay, so remember the number 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We're overlapping the 5 everywhere. Got no gaps. That means we're good to go. Okay, so a nice big seal, 2 Blue Max blades wide. I'm gonna stretch the middle, stretch that. Okay, so now we've got that plus 4 sections. It's the same as the rear screens, but it's just a smaller piece. Okay, push this out. Overlapping by 50%, sorry, at a 45-degree angle. Okay, so halfway there. Because we've been pushing moisture around, what we want to do is just to clean it one more time. Now we're back with the second piece. Again, I don't want to stick it on where I don't want to stick it on. You want to get it down near the bottom, lead with one side, and then move it around. It's sounding like it's a little bit sticky, so remember we can always take it down. A little bit more water. Just remember, the warmer the climate, the more soap you'd want as well, the more water. So overlapped everywhere, and again we're overlapping this line, so the top piece goes past it and the bottom piece comes above it. So we're going to stretch to the edge, stretch to the edge. Okay, so when I was actually squeegeeing over this area, I wasn't really putting too much pressure with this squeegee, with the Blue Max, because now we have to cut along this line and then pull the excess film out. On a hot day, if I'm putting a lot of pressure, you'll notice when you cut that line, when you're trying to fish this piece of film out, it might be stuck to the glass. So just go pretty light on here. You don't want to tack it down too hard, okay? So what I'm going to do is grab a fresh blade, come back, and then we'll look at splicing. So cool, with this splice it's very important, so I'm going to start with a fresh blade to make sure it's not damaged and it's going to cut through well. Probably going to start with 3 or 4 clicks out. I'm right-handed, so I'm going to start left to right, and what I want to do is start leaning like this. Okay, so when I'm coming along and I'm getting a bit fatigued, I'm like at eye level, it's a lot easier. If I'm sitting on this side of the vehicle, I'm going to get tired and start leaning, and you're going to find your knife will drop. If you're working with a team, you want to notify them that you're splicing. So, hey guys, I'm splicing, just so they're not, you know, shaking their car and moving around. While you're learning that, expect someone to do that. That's just part of the ritual. Okay. So no matter what, just keep your blade going. Okay, if you go off the line, it's okay. Just try and work your way back there. But no matter what, yeah, just keep it going. You're not going to cut all the way. You might cut to maybe 6 to 8 inches from the edge and stop there. Okay. So now that top piece. Alright, now rip up. Okay, so you can come back like we would call goofy, like inside handed. Best way, just learn how to cut left handed, you know. Just practice it and you'll get better. The most important part with coming back left-handed or inside out or goofy or whatever is try and stop on the same point. Okay, so now we've removed that top piece, but that bottom bit we have to remove. So just peel it back a little bit. Okay, try not to touch the film too much. Okay, so what we're doing is lifting this down, and when that folds up it's going to meet that, and we've got a nice join. So I want to just put a little bit of water there. Okay, peel it up slowly. Again, it's not a race. Take your time. And where we joined it, we have to be careful there, because a lot of the times it doesn't cut through. So you might have to just nick it with your knife slightly. Okay. We'll come back from this way. Yep, see there? There we go. Now that's out. Very important, wrong one. Very important, we don't want to squeegee up past that. We could catch that and tear it. So that's my 5th line. I'm just going to go gentle at that angle. You see all the moisture coming out. Okay, and then again on the side at that angle. Alright, and that's it. Now I'm going to just hard squeegee, finish the job. Okay, and then the same on this side. Squeegee it off. Okay, now we just need to jump on the outside. Okay, cool. So remember it was number 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So you follow this line along. You can see it's sitting down pretty well. A little bit sitting up here, which you may not see on camera. So that's it. That's splicing. If you take your time with it, you can sort of join them up quite nice. And it wouldn't be best practice, but sometimes with a bigger window, you don't have any choices. If it's sitting up in any areas, again, start the car, put the rear defrosters on, or the demister lines, heat the glass up, and then you'll be able to find, you can just run your finger there gently, and it should sit down fine.